Lions almost almost win. That seems to be their MO this year. They come so close.
Yeah, I would say there's been a lot of Lions games where, like, if the other games were sort of like, you'd be like, I'm going to watch this one because it's close and they're making a game of it.
Yeah, they've made a game of almost every game, and it's funny. It's just the other side of that is when they win, they kind of lose, as in last week when they won. They beat the Cardinals, but they fucked up their number 1 draft slot, losing that to the Jaguars. This week, they lose, but it feels like they won because they played so well. They had their quarterback was out with COVID. Their number 1 running back has been out, DeAndre Swift. They're basically their top offensive weapon, TJ Hawkinson, was out. He's been out for a couple weeks now. So they had no weapons. They had Tim Boyle, TB12 quarterbacking, and they had a shot to win the game. Just amazing. And it's funny. People felt pretty positive in Detroit. If you listen to Detroit Sports Talk Radio and everything, they feel good about the direction of the team, even after that loss to a pretty inferior, mediocre Atlanta team. But it felt good. Even losing, just to come that close. They actually had a shot to win in the last minute of the game until Tim Boyle threw an interception at the goal line that could have won the game. Tim Boyle, by the way, during the broadcast, I swear I heard his name pronounced wrong several times. Like, he's so unknown. It was Tom Boyle. I think it was Tim Bowles once. So I feel bad for our TB12. He's showing some signs of becoming a at least decent backup. He threw his first TD pass of his career to Amon-Ra St. Brown. Amon-Ra St. Brown, by the way, 35 receptions over the last 4 weeks. That is only second to Cooper Kupp in the National Football League. So Amon-Ra St. Brown, who had a touchdown on Sunday, that's a name you're going to pay attention to, I think, going forward. That's a receiver. It's emerging as, in a normal team, might be a number 2 or number 3 receiver, reliable guy. Of course, in the Lions, he'd be our number 1 right now. Atlanta. I need to back up in here a little bit and talk about Atlanta. Lions fans have a history. We might remember our history with Atlanta, recent history that would be one of the top 3 moments. I'd say I'd rank it number 3 in ranked moments in SOL history. As in 2017, your former Golden Domer, Golden Tate, caught a game-winning touchdown from the 1-yard line in the waning seconds of their game in 2017, 8 seconds to go, actually, where he scored the game-winning touchdown, you'd think. Of course, all scoring plays are reviewed, and the touchdown was actually overruled, and quite controversially. I think it could go either way. They said he had a knee down while he was being touched by the defender, and I think you could question whether his knee was down and when the guy touched him before crossing the goal line. So they somehow determined that it was enough evidence to overturn, which I thought was ridiculous. It should have been a touchdown because it was ruled that on the field. The issue, if it had not been ruled touchdown on the field, Lions had time to get up there, and that was on the 1-yard line. It was still right there. They could have spiked the ball and had another down and 8 seconds to actually try to score again. Unfortunately, with a review that was overturned in the last 2 minutes of the game, I believe the rule was, and may not be anymore. It was an automatic 10-second runoff to a team that no longer has any timeouts, which the Lions had no timeouts, unfortunately. So not only did the touchdown get overturned controversially, the clock was run from 8 seconds to 0 by a rule, and the Lions were denied victory immediately because of a technicality. Again, if the refs had ruled that it wasn't a touchdown to begin with, it would have been just second down, and they could have spiked it and had a chance to win. But since they ruled it a touchdown and then reverse it, the Lions lose. And it's just another amazing thing. The only thing I would put past that in SOL history, maybe number two, it would be the process catch, Calvin Johnson
Yeah,
in
that was
Chicago.
horrendous. That's horrendous.
Another rule that no one ever heard of until it happened against the Lions to lose a game. Of course, number one is near and dear to this podcast's heart as the interference call in the 2015 playoff game between the Lions in Dallas, where pass interference was called. The flag was thrown. They were actually, I thought they even called it on the field. Then they actually picked up the flag and said no interference. Subsequent review of it made it an obvious interference call that was somehow mysteriously picked up. That led to Lions loss. That would have been only their second playoff win in 30 years of Lions history.
I mean, nothing wrong with that one.
Congratulations to you.
There's definitely nothing wrong with that one.
Finally, to wrap up this Lions portion of the podcast, I like to call the SOL Sadcast. There is a historic. Today is December 30th, which is a historic day in Lions history. Jim Schwartz was fired on this day in 2013. After 5 years as coach, he was fired after a 29-51 record. Zero ties. When I was looking that up, they made sure to say there was zero ties. I'm not even sure you could have ties back then. I think they've changed that rule since then. There could actually be a tie, but yeah, so essentially his 5 years were the beginning of the Stafford era of Lions football. Stafford, by the way, who had 3 interceptions last week against the Vikings, adding to his total of 13 for the season. Yet the Vikings could not find a way to overcome to do anything with that. So I think that's about all I have. That's about all we need to talk about with the Lions, other than they can clinch a number 2 slot in the draft with a loss this week or
all
next
right.
week. So we're looking forward to that. They moved one step closer to clinching that number 2.
But I think they're playing a pretty terrible team this week.
Yeah. I'll get to that in a second. But the Jaguars, who have now taken over the number 1 draft slot, almost beat the Jets to ruin their number 1 slot and put the Lions back in the number 1 slot. Except Trevor Lawrence spiked the ball on 3rd down and gave them only 1 shot at throwing a touchdown pass and was unable to do so on 4th down. So moral of that story is never count on the Jaguars to do anything good for you one way or the other. So unfortunately, that did not work out for the Lions. So I don't see the Jaguars winning a game in these last 2. I don't even know who their opponents are, but it doesn't matter. They're not playing the Texans or the Jets. So the Lions can look forward to clinching the number 2 with a loss potentially this weekend at Seattle. The Lions are, like I said, are shorthanded. It sounds like Jared Goff had a chance to come back after being on the COVID list last week, but he has since hurt his knee, and I'm not sure what that means for practice. If he will be, I don't think he practiced yesterday, so I don't know what that means today, or if he'll be playing in Seattle on Sunday. DeAndre Swift is coming back, which is an interesting thing. Is he's obviously our number 1 running back, and I'm not sure you really want to see him come back in these meaningless games for fear of more injury or aggravating the current injury he has. I don't blame him for wanting to get it back on the field. As any reputable professional athlete will want to get back as soon as they can and help out his team. But is it in the Lions' best interest to have him play when he's obviously had some issues? So kind of holding our breaths to make sure he doesn't get hurt in these last 2. But so yeah, they will be playing in Seattle as another team that we love to hate here. The Chicago Bears squeaked out a victory in Seattle last weekend. I did not watch that. Did you Well, did you catch much of that, or you had thoughts
Not
on that game?
not much of it, but I caught the end of it, and the so it was the one game was getting a decent amount of coverage because it had snowed there and it snowed a lot there. So it was the one game being played in the snow. And uh, when the Bears won the game, I was like, what the hell just happened? Seattle had a 17-7 lead going into half. They had an 11-point lead going into the fourth quarter.
Jesus.
But what no one counted on was that Nick Foles was the quarterback in this football game. Nick Foles,
Big Dick Nick.
I don't think Nick had played since week 7 of 2020.
Yeah, I haven't heard his name in a long
Yeah.
time.
So they were down two quarterbacks due to injury, the Bears. That Fields and the Red Rifle were both out due to injury. So
What's going on with Fields? I haven't paid any attention to.
it's been like a knee issue, so I don't even know. I don't know what the deal is this week with him. I think it's
Bears
like
fans must be holding their breath though with their future franchise quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, I think
commas.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know that. I don't even know why you'd play him again this year. Makes no sense.
Yeah, I mean, just like I was talking about with Swift.
Yeah, you're out of the playoffs. You're not even like he's not worried about. Like, I don't know what Swift's contract is. Sometimes these guys need to get in the game because if they don't play a minimum amount of games, they make less money or whatever. I mean, obviously that's not Fields' case, at least this first year probably. But like it just would make no sense. But it was just the Seattle Seahawks are so much a shell of themselves. It's like hard to watch. I mean, Russell Wilson threw, I think, for 182 yards in that game.
Wow.
And that's, you've got DK Metcalf and Lockett still. Like, you still have two, like a potent 1 and 2 receiver. And somehow the Bears hung around. The Seahawks missed a second half field goal that would have sealed the game for them. I think it was actually in the fourth quarter. Earlier in the fourth quarter, they would have sealed the game for them. Nick Foles gets the ball back with 3 minutes and 52 seconds, marches them down the field. And if this doesn't sound funny, the score was to Jimmy Graham, Foles to Graham for the touchdown, and then some guy I never heard of scored the 2-point conversion, and the Bears leave with a 1-point victory. And you're like, what the hell just happened? And going into the game, there was talk that they were going to fire Nagy after the game, but like, why would you fire him at this point? There's only a couple games left in the season. It just seems stupid.
I would think they would definitely wait till the first day after the season's over. I mean, that's where that announcement's coming. But
yeah, and why is sports media bothering to drum up these stories that was he saved by this 1-point victory? No. I mean, the Bears are a terrible team, but the Seattle is just like, I don't know if Russell, like you were talking about with Kyler Murray, is Russell Wilson.
There's something going on.
He's older, but is he injured? And we don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, he is not himself, and it's such a huge drop off in a short amount of time that I'm not going to equate it to like age, right? I'm not going to say like this is Russell Wilson going forward. I feel like something's wrong with him.
Yeah, that's why I think it's an injury, because I don't think of him as old yet necessarily. So
yeah, exactly. So this really opens this game up for SOL to be in full effect, because this is not a good football team. There's infighting in Seattle. I mean,
I know it makes me nervous.
This is ripe for the picking.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know when the last time the Lions actually won in Seattle. There's been all those historic things like where they hadn't beaten Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh in 66 years or something like that. I'm sure there's a stat we'll be hearing about for Seattle. So that does make me nervous seeing the equally inept Bears go in there and get the victory. That's not what I'm looking for at this point. That's what the Lions have done to this Lions fan and many others like me, where I'm rooting against my team to get a better draft pick. we've gone through this debate over and over again. Do you want your team to win, or do you want them to win in the long term? Do you want the short term gratification, or building a healthier franchise over the long term? And that's where I lean to. I want them to lose these meaningless games to get that better draft pick, as they can lock down that number 2 overall pick and hopefully move back to the number 1 somehow. If they win this game somehow, there's the potential they could pick number 5 or number 6 almost in this draft,
Yeah,
which
you don't want that.
I'm sure Bears fans are lamenting that victory too, because they were just eliminated from the playoffs the week before, and now they're fucking up their draft slot. You've got nothing else to live for.
I don't think Bears fans are that smart though.
I did some number crunching for the Lions, where looked at meaningless games over the last 6 years.
Have they played the most?
They played a lot. I don't know about the most. They are now 6-7 in games that meant nothing after they were eliminated from the playoffs.
Holy cow!
They would have been. They were 500 before last weekend, so which is kind of crazy to think about, how they win half the time that they are eliminated from the playoffs. In all other games in that span before they've been mathematically eliminated, they are 20 games below 500. They are 40-60. So
perhaps they should start the season as if they're eliminated from the playoffs.
Yeah, this is why SOL exists. This is why I am such a frustrated, annoyed Lions fan, that the numbers bear it out. They are better when the games don't mean anything, and they fuck themselves out of draft picks when it matters least. So such is the plight of Lions fandom everywhere. Some people either recognize what's going on, or they have their head buried in the sand.
Word Hole Media.